Vikings made a move today, agreeing to re-sign center Garrett Bradbury, another position of need off the board as Minnesota is committed to Bradbury on a 3-year, $15.75 million deal. Folks, this is a super cheap contract for a starting center. And if there were a Super Bowl for getting a player to agree to a value contract, well, the Vikings, they would hoist the Lombardi trophy. But last time I checked, we're not talking about the sport of finance here. We're talking about the sport of football. It doesn't matter how much you spend or save, your players still need to go out onto the field and play. Garrett Bradbury, his first 3 years out of NC State, was awful. Last year, his 4th season, he was decent. And now the Vikings are banking on that to be the new norm. The Vikings, in terms of savings, I'm sure they're happy. Garrett Bradbury, probably happy to stay where he's been at the last 4 years. I'll tell you who else is probably happy about this deal. Kenny Clark, Chris Jones, Javon Hargrave, Eric Armstead, Derek Brown, DJ Reader, a.k.a. defensive tackles that Bradbury will have to face in 2023. Decent season last year, even though still occasionally struggled with the one-on-one blocks and pass protection. The interior offensive line is a problem, and while I'd argue that guard play is a much bigger issue compared to a decent center who hopefully he can still be that in 2023, but just having a decent center doesn't change all of that. You've got some good center prospects in this upcoming draft. But with this deal, Vikings feel that they're good. In other news, Kirk Cousins and the Vikings have agreed to a cap maneuver, saving $16 million in cap this year, which before accounting for the Josh Oliver and Marcus Davenport signings, that's going to put the Vikings at about $6 million under the cap. Subsequently, that means the Vikings are forcing $16 million more in dead cap money in 2024 on top of the already $12.5 from Kirk Cousins, which I don't think it's a big deal at all. Not that anyway, because before this move, the Vikings, they were looking at about $113 million in cap for next year. Now with this move, it puts them at about 97. They're in great shape, especially if they've got a quarterback next year on a rookie deal, because you got to remember, Kirk Cousins, this cap maneuvering move, is not an extension. He's still playing on the last year of his deal, at least right now anyway, until further notice. But the thing is, they didn't need to make this move, the Vikings. Trade or cut Zadarius Smith, a release or restructure of Hitman, they could have done just enough cap-wise to sign their free agent deals and their draft picks without this cap maneuvering move of Kirk Cousins. I believe they're preparing for some sort of semi-big move, a trade if you will, for an impact type of player that's going to have significant cap hits, someone that they plan on keeping beyond this year. But it's not going to matter because next year, after accounting for the future contracts and whatnot, they're going to have around $90 million in cap space. Something to keep an eye on here, just a hunch. And lastly, will Dalvin Cook stay in Minnesota after the Dolphins re-sign Raheem Mostert? Does it put an end to any potential trade? I don't think it's over. You got to remember, last season, the Dolphins also had Raheem Mostert and evidently didn't think that was enough. Had Raheem Mostert on the roster and still traded for Jeff Wilson Jr. from the San Francisco 49ers mid-season. I believe Miami sees Mostert as an RB2 and will still want a clear-cut RB1. No first-round pick this year, so Bijan Robinson, that's out the window. I don't think this should be ruled out. When it comes to a potential trade between the Vikings and the Dolphins for Dalvin Cook, it ain't over till it's over.